This conference will now be recorded.
You ready, Counselor?
And I understand
that. Jennifer, are we recording? Are we ready?
Well, yeah, and that's what it was unanimous. The proposal was just.
Jason's sure been gone a lot, hasn't he?
I'm gonna bring that up to the mayor. Just
See if there's something. I guess we're scheduled.
$8.
Okay, maybe I'm.
We good? Call the May 18th meeting of the Area Plan Commission to order. Mr. Burns, would you call the roll, please?
Jackson Bogan. Present. Larry Leverance.
Here.
Carla Snodgrass. Gary Schroeder.
Here.
Jerry Reynolds.
Present.
Greg Jones. Here. Bob Metzger. Diana Looper.
Here.
Vicki Pearl.
Present.
Michelle Dennis. Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Perry Brown.
Present.
Tracy Brown.
Present.
Jason Domkowski. Lisa Dullum.
Here.
Kathy Parker.
Here.
Jody Hamilton. Quorum present.
Thank you. Briefing session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The petitioner for S-5071, that's Wiggins Farm subdivision, has requested a continuance to the June 15th Area Plan Commission public hearing because the public hearing notice was not completed on time. And the petitioner for Z-2856 BET Rentals LLC has requested a continuance to the June 15th public hearing. The other cases are set to go forward with one exception, and I'll be talking about a continuance for one of the ordinance amendments, but we'll discuss that as it comes up.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the April 20th, 2022 public hearing as submitted.
Second. Sorry.
Any discussion, additions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No new business. Public hearing. Let me read my statement here. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make comments or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. When we are hearing a request for a change in zoning, we're trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each case being heard, our staff will present its report. Then the person requesting the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, and then those who wish to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Plan Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We are a 17-member body, and a majority of 17 is 9. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 9 votes in favor or 9 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the room before using the phone. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission.
I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application to be heard this evening and become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the applications to be heard this evening, and responses from checkpoint agencies.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I move to continue S 5071 Wiggins Farm Subdivision Major Preliminary NZ 2856 BET Rentals LLC R1 to GB to the June 15th APC hearing at petitioner's request.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I move to hear and vote on UZO Amendment Number 103-A.
Second.
Mr. Hiddle.
Thank you. David Hiddle with the Area Plan Commission. This is the proposed zoning ordinance amendment having to do with self-storage facilities. The Plan Commission voted on this last month, and so it went to the it is going to the 6 legislative bodies, West Lafayette, Battleground, the county commissioners, Clarks Hill, and Dayton. And then from them, it comes back to the Plan Commission. 3 of those bodies have heard this and acted on it. 3 of them have not. Rather than have this one matter take several different courses, we'd like to keep it all together. So if we were to continue it for 1 month to your meeting next month, we expect to have heard back from the other 3 legislative bodies and can, in one decisive fell swoop, act on this. And that would still meet the 45-day timeline imposed by the state code on Area Plan Commission to act. So we recommend that 103A be continued for 1 month.
Just to make sure we're correct, I'll let you know the West Lafayette City Council meets on the 7th, not the 6th, but
Thank
that's
you.
not a big deal.
Right, that's fine.
One question I had, and I just so we're all on the same page here. you stated that when, according to state code, decisions to amend the APC recommendation are sent back to the APC. That struck me initially as we're sending a recommendation and you either vote up or you're down on it. And so that is, the state code says that that can happen. That is correct?
Yeah, state code says that does happen. If the legislative body votes to amend, then it does go back
Okay.
to the plan commission.
So they can vote to amend.
Yes. Yes, they can vote to sanction what the plan commission has done. They can vote to reject it, or they can vote to amend it.
Okay,
And in
thank
that
you.
case, it comes back.
Thank you.
So hearing that, I'll move to continue the UZO Amendment Number 103-A to the June 15th, 2022 APC public hearing.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.
I move to hear and vote on UZO Amendment Number 104.
Second.
David?
Thank you. The second ordinance amendment in front of you today has to do with the creation of a new use, which would be called a Haven Home. You might recall that this was discussed here a month ago. Commissioner Murtaugh suggested that this be brought forward as a potential new use in the zoning ordinance to allow for things like the Isaiah House, which came before this body as a rezoning earlier in the year, or maybe last year, to allow for what is called a Haven Home, which is a relatively innocuous use, to be permitted by special exception. So we came forward with you last time, talked about a definition and talked about some specifics, and then the Plan Commission made some recommendations. We incorporated them. And so what we have for you today is the idea that Haven Home would be defined as a social service facility assisting children awaiting foster care or similar placement. The child's stay at such facility shall not exceed 72 hours. That's the definition. And then the ordinance would be changed so that this would be allowed by right in NBU and MRU, mixed use and neighborhood business zoning districts, and then by special exception in all residential zones. And I think that's in conformance with the discussion that we had here last month. So it's presented to you for a recommendation this month.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Hiddle from the commission? I'm going to change order here a little bit.
I just had a quick question. So this typically, I would envision, would be a home, something that looks residential. Would we think that's very likely in the NBU and the MRU? I'm not saying I have an objection to it.
It's, I imagine as this is considered, it's probably thought that it would be most appropriate in a home, but the ordinance doesn't specify anything about the form of the building.
Okay.
So this is stating that it could be in any other kind of building if it's zoned NBU or MRU.
Okay. I don't see there being any issue with it, that being included, but
Yeah. I mean, it probably wouldn't be a house. It would be some other kind of building, but I don't know that that's objectionable really in any way.
well, I thank you for staff's help with this. I think this is an improvement. Obviously, this is something that had not been considered in the ordinance prior. And it just, as you remember when we heard that request, it just didn't feel right, I think, to most of us, the fact that we were rezoning that into a commercial use in order to make that particular use happen. So I think this is a good fix. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Hiddle. Any questions or comments from the audience, please? Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, you have a yellow ballot.
Okay. 14 ballots cast, all 14 in favor, so this amendment will carry a positive recommendation to the commissioners.
Thank you.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2847, Tippecanoe Acquisitions LLC, West Heights Condominiums R1 to PDRS.
Second.
Mr. O'Gara.
Hello. All right. There we go. All right, let's orient you. This is the property is located in the southeast corner of the intersection of Klondike and Cumberland, or County Road 250. This is a slightly older photo. There is a completed roundabout intersection there now, if anyone's been out that way, based on all the improvements done to Klondike Road. So it looks sharp. This is in the unincorporated county. The West Lafayette city limits are kind of found off just to the east, and they actually touch this property. This NB zoned land is their connection point to the city limits, but this is in the unincorporated county. It's, as you can see, it's currently undeveloped and in row crop production. It's about a little over 16.5 acres. The proposal is for a 158 unit condominium project. So this is not an apartment complex. These aren't rentals. These are meant for purchase. The urban form being employed here is sort of the single family attached house, or the townhouse. The maximum height is just 2 stories. So there's, in many respects, they're actually shorter than probably some of the 2-story homes in the neighborhood to the south. But this is the site plan. Each unit has a 2-car garage that is rear loaded off of this private street network that you see here. There are no public streets being created with this. So driveway entrances into this public street network. And then again, 2-car garage, and then 2 spaces in the driveway. So they have, standard kind of 4 parking spaces, like, any single family home would have. But the units obviously are a little smaller and more vertical. Obviously it's slightly more maintenance-free living under the condominium regime. The owners would just be responsible for what's inside their unit. The exteriors, of course, would be maintained by the association. Based on early kind of engineering, this drainage scheme of a centralized catchment area seemed to work the best based on surveyors' analysis. And so they kind of ran with that, decided to make an amenity out of it, series of 2 ponds encircled by a small trail network with some seating areas, just a clear private amenity space for the residents. That could be, repurposed, programmed whatsoever around the drainage. Both West Lafayette Fire and Township Fire, Wabash Township Fire, were engaged in the negotiations since both agencies could respond and would respond to an emergency here. And both were pleased with the turning movements, access points. You'll see there's an existing driveway entrance that was created with the Klondike Road redo that they're making use of. And so they're going to be utilizing this existing driveway entrance on the west. On the north, they show 2 entrances. They only mean to actually construct one. The reason for the 2 is at the time, County Highway was concerned about what traffic impacts there might be vis-a-vis the new roundabout. And so County Highway actually requested a traffic study be done based on the traffic generation that would come out of this site versus what's surrounding it presently. And the early findings, which I actually just got this morning and sent along to County Highway, kind of indicate that either entrance is likely fine. And so this project, this PD is sort of designed with sort of 2 site plan options, really depending on how County Highway comes down at the end. When the final report's issued, County Highway can scrutinize it, and then honestly, they can tell the developer which way it's going to be. Either they push the northern entrance, further to the east, closer to the city limits, or they leave it where they originally thought they wanted it, which was right here. So there's no loss in units or parking or even green space. It literally just kind of flips one way or the other. So that's why we're kind of showing these 2 entrances. The design is pretty innovative for the area, and I think it kind of employs more of an urban aesthetic, kind of in a suburban environment. But when you go out that way, both Cumberland and Klondike have brand new trail facilities on them that connect directly into West Lafayette, connect points up and down Klondike. And given the proximity to the schools and the fact that the Cumberland 231 intersection area per the 231 plan in the city is promoting a fair amount of non-residential and commercial development. This sort of design choice really seemed to fit given the adjacencies. I mean, what you have across the street is a bunch of non-residential activity, industrial sites here, commercial sites here. You have multifamily apartment complex directly to the north. So we saw this project, this condominium residential project, as sort of a transition from single family detached moving to a single family attached look. And then you're suddenly in a non-residential environment as you move to the northwest. This seemed to fit like a good kind of bridging form of development. So these are the elevations, flat roof design with parapets. And then this is what it would look like from the streets. We kind of reserve the best architectural materials for the road frontage so that those units that will be highly visible will be able to have more of a presence. The interior units and the units that are kind of facing away from things, we were able to kind of employ a different style. But that's sort of a general look at that. The utilities, of course, are available to the site and have been for some time. There is visitor parking that's off the private street network, as well as the 4 spaces essentially per unit. So parking is definitely not an issue here. So again, staff, as we did with the 4th Street brownstones that was approved and finally platted, and they're now for sale over here in Lafayette, that was sort of the resurgence of the condominium market, the residential condominium market. And this effort here is trying to contribute into a purpose-built project as opposed to a conversion. And staff generally has always supported a diverse spectrum of home ownership opportunities. And I think this will be a good addition to that stock. So be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we are recommending conditional approval. The conditions are fairly standard for condos.
Thank you, Ryan.
Also, we have 2 letters recommending or against when you're ready for them.
Okay, thank you. So petitioner or petitioner's representative like to make a presentation.
Yes, good evening. Chris Shellman of Goodwine Law, 250 Main Street, here on behalf of petitioner, Tippecanoe Acquisitions. I also have with me tonight Principal of Tippecanoe Acquisitions, David Hood. I'd like to thank the staff, Ryan, certainly been great to work with in getting to ultimately what we think is a innovative and quite nice project addition to the West Lafayette area. The site, as Ryan pointed out, is sort of a remnant site that was left behind by Wake Robin. There's no connection, no access there. And it's this 16 acres on the corner that's surrounded by a smattering of zones. There's some I-3 warehouses, GB, Lafayette Limo, some student housing with I forget what it's called now. Copper Beach is what I remember it as. Some R3W, and then even some neighborhood business and some self-storage just up the road on Cumberland. So the developer, we looked at this as an opportunity to provide some upscale additional housing options that took advantage of this smaller site. It's no longer appropriate, in our opinion, for large lot, single family homes, but we could still meet the quality of the surrounding neighborhoods and actually make that step towards an elevated residential area as an addition. The layout has a couple unique features. The townhouse design allows for rear loading. That's going to make sure we keep all the garages, facing each other. They won't be visible. It'll also have all of the trash and other use services and those types of things hidden not only within development but from the public. That design also allows for significant activity setbacks from the surrounding neighbors to the south and on the east. What that means is that there's this ring road which will really only be utilized by guests, which is further setback from landscaping buffer, and that will be the front door of these condos. So the least utilized. Most of the access on day-to-day will be entered through this rear entry garage area and really provide minimal impact. It also provided an opportunity to have this amenity common green space in the middle, which will have the fronts of these units. People can walk out in sort of a semi-urban environment where they walk out, share the greens, and walk out their front door and see the ponds. And as Ryan mentioned, as you keep going north on this site, it allows for direct interaction with the trail network that was installed. The other main feature and intent of these was to provide high-end condo living. The materials are all brick on the front facades throughout the whole project. To the portions that aren't brick or hardy board or other cement board siding, high-end materials, and they're all 2- and 3-bedroom condos, which are around 1,800 square feet. So these are meant to be able to provide real life living for everyday people and be utilized by families as they see fit. Ultimately, we agree with the staff report. We think this is a nice housing option for the area and certainly keeps this area residential while dealing with the development realities of the site. We welcome the commitments and look forward to finalizing the project, and we'd be happy to answer any specific question you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Schulman. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone who would like to speak against?
My name is Matt Wilburn. I live at just east of this unit, 2228 Bobolink Drive. I want to say I'm not well versed in the complexities of proposals and Robert's rules and lots, and really, actually outside of the TV show Parks and Rec, my experience is really at best elementary with city government. So I do appreciate your thoughtfulness and your care, the sacrifice that you make, particularly for your families, to take care of us. So thank you, particularly John Burns, going back and forth via email. Initially, I was very much opposed to this proposal. It seems like the due diligence has been taken to accommodate both sides, both the south and the east. I would be very much interested to hear the investigation process and how to accommodate where this particular area is. I do understand the uniqueness of it with the lots merging together, but that intangible vibe of that particular community is more of an escape from the from campus life and the really kind of the broader West Lafayette community, and all that to say, personally, this community that we found in our area has been a welcome refreshment, a vital reason for our family, particularly, to remain in the West Lafayette area. And this proposal might drastically change the makeup of that location. Currently, it's a unique escape from the commercial area of West Lafayette, and then obviously campus. And although what could be a small impact, and I do appreciate the thoughtfulness to minimize the impact of some of those things with the garages and the ponds and those types of things. But I wonder if the community that has been created by some of these families who chose this particular area to remain in West Lafayette for a long term, not coming in and out, that it might have a negative effect on the types of families that are coming in and choosing to stay in those homes that are just to the east and to the south here, based upon this particular proposal. So just something to consider as to the negative impact that this might have on some of these families east and to the south. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak against?
Hi, I'm Diane Bird. I live at 2320 Bobolink Lane, and this project would be directly to the west of my home. Several people on our street have, like myself, have one-story homes, and then suddenly we'll have 158 condominiums with two-story places with, it looks like, some balconies. And I just want to know, if it does go through, are there special considerations for the evergreen buffering or other kinds of sound baffling? As well, I'm concerned about the lighting, if it could be special consideration given for the dark sky lighting. I anticipate that many homes and parking lot lights and such would just be a huge infringement upon all of our homes on the south and east of the project. I'm also concerned about the stress being put on West Lafayette Fire Department, the Wabash Fire Department, sewage, water, and the schools. As we know, Tippecanoe County schools are already overflowing, and they're making extra consideration now, of course, to enlarge those schools. But this would add how many different students to this mix. So this is what I'm concerned about. I'd like to have it addressed.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Anyone else like to speak against?
Good evening. My name is Ryan Stayback. My wife and I live at 2404 Bobolink Drive, which is the first house off of Cumberland and directly backs up to this property. Again, we are concerned about the noise and light pollution that will result from these condos being so close to our backyard, and also the additional traffic on Cumberland. I know he had mentioned something about the second drive possibly being a solution or an addition. However, the drive that comes off of Bobolink, I think, would cause more concern for traffic incidents and accidents. Also, our neighbor's house has no existing tree line, so those trees, that if those evergreen buffers would be planted, those would take years to rid any line of sight barrier. Also, there is a similar complex across the street that was mentioned earlier. From our house, we can see plenty of lights, hear plenty of noise from those living in those. And we are concerned that having something this much closer to our house would impact us greater. Additionally, Miller Pipeline recently tore up our yard and added in a regulator, something that we were not notified of either by Miller Pipeline or city, and that bothered us. But in accordance with that not in accordance, but with that regulator going in, we were told that the gas from our neighborhood was being pushed over to that complex where those residents currently are because of low pressure. And I'm worried about what this development might do in also taking gas pressure from our neighborhoods and surrounding areas. We propose that this property stay zoned for single family homes so that there is less density, traffic, light, and noise pollution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed? Brian, would you do the two letters, please?
Sure. The first is from Jeffrey Turner of 2852 Needle Tail Drive, West Lafayette. Dear APC members, until I have more information about the project plan for the land under consideration to be rezoned from PDRS from R1, I am against the plan to change the current zoning from R1. Since my backyard faces north and would be bordering any building projects for the current land that is being farmed, I have the following concerns. Number one, increased noise from traffic coming into and out of the project, especially if the project is for the construction of townhomes or condominiums. Number two, increased amount of light from the building's lights and from the automobiles constantly coming and going into the project. And three, price point of the units to be sold. In my opinion, current asking price for the units being sold in the project should be at least $300,000 to protect the value of the homes in the surrounding area. Thank you for this opportunity to communicate my concerns to the commission members. I do have one last question. If the plan is to build condominiums or townhomes, then will a solid wall at least 8 feet tall be built all the way across the south edge of the current field? Second letter is from Jenry Perez Ray of 2874 Needle Tail Drive, West Lafayette. This letter is to express my comments against the proposal of a change of the zoning classification from the R1 zone to the PDRS zone. This rezone process will change the neighborhood residential house pattern, what is one of the main reasons to buy a house and live with my family in this neighborhood. Two, the structure change will affect the current and future price of the neighborhood houses, causing them to lose value. Three, and the most important reason, this action will transform a food producing area into a construction area. This will be an excellent opportunity to choose the right priorities. Thank you for the opportunity to send our thoughts. That's it.
Thank you, Ryan. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Hearing none, Mr. Schulman, would you like to comment?
Briefly. Thank you. As you're all aware, this being a planned development, all of the features and designs are specifically outlaid, everything down to the specific lighting, as well as the buffering and landscaping. There's sheets that limit this lighting, and what's most important is that the lighting is meant to be residential scale, front porch light, no parking area lighting. It's not like a Walmart or Meijer or anything like that. It's all very residential scale, limited, and designed to be just like it would be in a neighborhood. And you can see it on there. And as you know, with the planned development, these plans can't be deviated from without coming back here and getting permission. The landscaping will buffer the entire site. And as we said, so the homes in Wake Robin, they back up to that. So the rear of their lots surround this property. So not only do they have their rear lot line, many have trees, some don't, some have fencing, some don't. But we have their property line, which is the rear. We then have our buffering. We then have the road, and then we have the front, less active area of the site. So the property is pushed back as much as can be. That makes sense. Utilities were brought up. All of the utilities have capacities for this project. Traffic is not a problem as set forth in the survey. And as you all know from the site, it's surrounded by 4-lane roads on both sides and even a 2-lane roundabout. This area will grow. The area is not destined to be agriculture, and we would submit that this high-end condo use, which can be single family, is different than the apartments in the area and provides a nice additional housing option. As asked, the anticipated sales price isn't final yet, but it's expected to be $300,000 to $350,000, depending on the units. So it's all high-end materials, and we think that will help the sales price of the single-family homes nearby. If there aren't any other specific questions, we'd respectfully ask a recommendation of approval for the project, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Okay. Hearing none, you have a yellow ballot.
We have 14 votes for the positive recommendation. This case will proceed to the commissioners next month.
Thank you, Ryan.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2854, Newcastle Holdings LLC, A to I3.
Second.
Okay. Well, do take note of both the staff report and our addendum, because our recommendation has changed from the original publication. We are in Lafayette's south side in the county. The site is currently zoned A. As you can see from the zoning, purple's kind of dominating. This is the kind of the southeast side of the city. This is the industrial expansion area. This site is adjacent to it. The 16.25 acre site is being proposed for I3 zoning for about half the site for use as a truck terminal, SIC 4231. I can let the petitioner explain the operations. The other half will be undeveloped and possibly utilized for something else in the future. So they're only kind of interested in developing half the site at this point. Go ahead and zoom in. Obviously, it's undeveloped. There's been no rezoning or BZA activity in this immediate vicinity in our records. Again, the site's been unimproved for at least a couple of decades from our reckoning. It has Newcastle Road frontage as well as County Road 350 South frontage. Let's see. Obviously, any new driveway permits will be issued through county highway. The utilities was the main reason for our initial recommendation. And to that end, I'm going to switch to my addendum. So APC staff's been in contact with both Economic Development Director Dennis Carson from Lafayette, as well as Stu Klein from County Highway. And sort of things are starting to move quickly to start preparing this part of the community for a development future. And normally we would not support an upzoning off the water sewer grid. That's just sort of a standard policy that we have in the comp plan to try to have compact development that does not leapfrog. But in this instance, plans are already underway, both on the utility side and on the highway side, to start to transition this area for development, given its adjacencies to the industrial expansion area. So knowing that and hearing these commitments coming down the road, literally, the staff's opinion that this is premature has shifted. If we did not have this information from both highway and economic development, we likely would have continued to recommend denial just as a matter of policy. But given this new information, we think that this is an appropriate transition. We are recommending approval.
Thank you, Ryan.
So I don't believe, yes, here's a copy of their non-binding conceptual site plan.
Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative like to make a presentation?
Well, good evening. My name is Marianne Owen. I'm from the law firm of Stewart and Brannigan, 300 Main Street. It's my pleasure to be here and request your the recommendation of approval of this rezoning on New Castle Road from A to I3. Honestly, the staff report says so much. The addendum speaks quite well of the request we have before us. With the input from Dennis Carson, the Director of Economic Development, and Stu Klein, the Director of the County Highway Department, the APC has determined that it is now time for the rezoning of this property from A to I3 with our petitioner's project. In particular, our local leaders, including the Lafayette Redevelopment Commission, have designated this area as a next prime industrial development area for our community. So having this property, I3, fits this stance. Very simply, as the APC staff quotes Mr. Carson, this property is an area to allow its development moving ahead aggressively, like its neighbor property, the Lappin property across New Castle Road. There are considerable portions of row crop areas that have been rezoned industrial, like the Lappin property, which are being prepared for annexation by the city of Lafayette to further industrial development in the area, like the petitioner's plans, which have been noted by the APC staff. These new developments will drive the need for city water and sewage that will benefit the existing properties, increasing their value, be their use anything from residential to industrial. In addition to the benefit of annexation, the nearby residential uses are going to be protected by the industrial uses by our zoning ordinances, buffer yard, and other protective requirements. In this instance, the petitioner's specific request for I3 zoning is because of its work to be outside rather than I2, I1, or GB. The work shall be industrial activity, contracting, warehousing, and wholesaling that's heavy in impact because it is in part outside. In this instance, such uses include but are not limited to the loading and unloading of freight, outdoor storage, some minor vehicle repairs, and other similar trucking-related activities. Stu Klein notes that the area's roadways are improving, and the East Old 350 South has been upgraded to accommodate trucks, and there are other plans for Newcastle Road and other areas, roads in the works. So again, we respectfully request your approval of this request for rezoning and ask you to allow this particular request to move ahead aggressively. I'm here to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Owen. Is anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak opposed to this petition?
Hello, I'm Jonna Anderson. My father, Curtis Anderson, owned 3416 Newcastle Road. I am the executor of his estate. He passed away last September. So the house is currently on the market for sale. And I'm here representing the estate, myself, and my 3 brothers who are heirs. Some concerns that I have about this rezoning. I have had one buyer who was very interested in the home actually back out, or basically said, I'm not going to make an offer because I'm not sure what they're going to do next door, and I don't want to look out my window and see industry. Subsequently, on the market, I have had 2 strong offers, and I can see by this layout, this is helpful because I can see that it's not going to be right next door to my father's home. However, sight lines are going to be important, and we don't know what's going to be done with that land in the future. My concerns, I did speak with one neighbor, and I don't want to use hearsay here. There's some concern on that end as well as what the impact is going to have on the value of their home. There's 6 homes in that stretch, and I think the property owners there were hopeful that that section of Newcastle, even though the other side was going to be something industry, that on down to the other residential areas on that side of the road would continue to be residential or agriculture for their property values. One of the concerns that I had for the potential home buyer is water supply. Everything there is on wells. I think people are happy with their wells there. I understand the city water is coming in. I'm on a well. I don't think that city water would benefit me. I like my well water and the minerals it provides, but I can't speak for whoever's going to own that home in the future. Secondly, the homeowners in the area, once city water does come, they're going to be responsible for the costs, I would assume, to hook up to that, or would they be? That would be a question. Are they going to be required to hook up to that? Because right now they don't have sewer or water costs. I did see in the staff notes that there was concern expressed by the staff of going I-3 because of the homes, and I would agree with that. I think that any home buyer, I know I don't want an industry right next door to me where I live, especially with no buffer, nothing to stop the sight of what's going on there. Added to that, if it's going to be truck traffic, you're going to have diesel engine sounds, so that's going to impact the property and the neighboring properties as well. Forgive me if I'm not as prepared as I would have liked to be, and I thought about typing something up, but thought about it afternoon today, which I think is the deadline for submitting those. So my realtor and I've had conversations about this as well, and the general consensus is that it's going to adversely affect the property values of the homes there because of what's being put on the site. So I would oppose it as an I-3 rezoning. So. Okay. Did you need anything from me? I brought along everything regarding my ability to speak for the estate. I didn't.
No, okay. No, not really. Did you give us your address? I'm sorry.
My personal address, I live at 152 East, 150 South in Crawfordsville.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Ms. Owen, would you like to rebut, please?
I touched on some of the items that were just mentioned, and I will just quickly touch on them again, that our land use and zoning ordinance covers many of the concerns that are raised when we have a residential property next to an industrial property. This area is predominated by industrial properties. There will be industrial work, industrial development in this area. There will be trucking in this area. This is going to be a part of the future of this area. There also will be, with that, the annexation of the area, which will bring in the land use, the water and sewer into this area, and the landowners will be dealing with this. So we respect their concerns, but we recognize that these are parts of their future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My understanding, pardon me, my understanding that before operations begin, you will be hooked up to city water and you will be hooked up for city service, all the city services. Am I correct? Because I think the question was the last time, the well issue, the sanitation issues, with the amount of water that it takes to run its operation, that you have agreed with the city to be annexed and also hook up to water and sewage. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, you have a yellow ballot.
We have 13 votes recommending approval, 1 vote recommending denial. This case will advance to the county commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2857 BET Rentals LLC, I3 to GB.
Second.
Mr. Burns, not that one.
Good evening. All right. So here on the map, we can see we're on the north side of Brady Lane, in between its intersections with Concord Road and US 52. If you look at this map here, you see a lot of purple. This is kind of the northern portion of the industrial expansion area that starts from what was Alcoa going southeast towards SIA and down US 52. Here's the aerial showing. Let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. So we can see here on this aerial that the lots are all unimproved. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 lots that were platted last year in a subdivision. The lot that is adjoining over here is a lot that was designed for stormwater detention basin. So that will also be used by any activity on this lot here. The proposal is to have at least 2 users are known at this time. One is a crawl space remediation company, and the other one is a kennel. Now, there could be more users, and I think that the attorney will tell you that they are still looking to see who else would be interested in occupying this land, but the 2 existing proposed users are not permitted in I3 and only allowed in GB. When we look at the area out here, like I said, there is a lot of GB, or a lot of I3, and we do have some spots of GB. This area here that's at the corner of Imperial and Brady Lane, some of you might have driven by it and then seen the gas station that's under construction here. And we also had a rezone along Brady Lane right here to GB. So what I realized when researching this is that we've had a lot of both commercial and industrial uses out here, and the boundaries slowly change over time. Based on the size of the lots that were created last year in this subdivision, staff believes that GB is probably a more appropriate use, given that I3, the heavy industrial zoning, typically attracts users that need more space and have a lot more outdoor activity. So rezoning these lots to GB, staff is supportive of. Additionally, to the north is a large buffered area of the Elliott Ditch where no development can occur. So it kind of keeps this oriented towards the south where the other industrial development is. So staff is recommending approval. Sorry, the mouse is going all over the place there. We'll just leave it on that aerial there.
Okay, thank you, John. Does the petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Yes, thank you. Kevin Riley, attorney with Riley and Teeter and Schreier, representing the petitioner, BET Reynolds. Todd Boyd, the petitioner's representative, is here tonight as well and available to answer any questions you may have. I'll make this short and sweet. We agree with the staff's report. Really don't have anything to add to that other than we have discussed the project with the mayor, city engineer, and Mr. Reynolds prior to being here tonight. It's our understanding they're supportive. We answered whatever questions were raised at that point, so we respectfully request your approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, you have a yellow ballot.
We have 14 votes recommending approval. This will carry on to Lafayette City Council.
Thank you.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2858, Patrick O'Neill and Melinda O'Neill, R3W to R4W.
Okay. All right, well, this is a rezoning request in the city of West Lafayette. The nearest intersection is Grant and Harrison. It's kind of in the northwest corner of that intersection. As you can see, we have a lot of R3W zoning and scattering of planned developments. Probably the closest project to this that is of a similar type is probably this R4W zone. This was rezoned, gosh, I don't know, maybe just a few years ago. It hasn't been super long, with the intention of essentially getting over the R3W density requirement and densifying a project in a redevelopment effort. This project is following a similar trajectory, albeit on a smaller scale. They just have less acreage. But yeah, notable projects, the Grant Street Station plan development, the AO Pie house are some of the more notable ones. This area kind of south of Wood Street is definitely less intense, generally speaking, obviously, than as you get closer to State Street and River Road. This area is not part of the downtown plan. It's sort of an unplanned area. It's sort of an area we hope to get to when the city council's interested. But even staff's kind of vision for this is really kind of laid down by, you can kind of see with the various plan developments that are there, just, allowing for more residential density and intensity, but not at the scale of a downtown core environment. This is off the downtown. This is a near downtown neighborhood as opposed to a central located neighborhood. That said, there's not a single homeowner occupier in this area. It is all rental primarily. And has been for a long time. A lot of converted homes, a lot of low-rise apartments, a lot of small redevelopment efforts, and then some more significant ones like Grand Street Station, which are sort of the new kids on the block. So this effort is going to be obviously much smaller in scale than these larger PDs, given its site constraints. So there is a public alley bordering to the west. They also do have a driveway curb cut directly into the site off of Harrison. And then they have this collection of kind of 3 buildings, 1 converted home, and then kind of 2 purpose-built apartment, kind of low-rise apartment buildings, and then their parking area. I do not believe, they did not submit a site plan. They didn't need to, but their effort, as they've explained to us, is to demolish these existing buildings and come in with a more of an urban mid-rise type building that you would see on a similar type. Probably the Monterey Apartments plan development on Pierce that came before this body not too long ago would be of a similar character, albeit this is an even smaller site. So it's they are somewhat constrained there. Harrison is an urban local road. As far as we know, all necessary right-of-way is needed, is there for that site. Whether the city needs any right-of-way for the alley is something that could come in the subdivision process. This might be one of the old 12-foot wide alleys in the city, but that'll kind of be up to city engineering and fire department. Again, this effort is following a similar trajectory as I believe it was a Basham property off to the east that did an R4W rezone that they're trying to overcome density requirements and in some instances request variances for parking and maybe some setbacks and some other potential variance requests in order to kind of achieve the look they want. So staff has been in favor of these small redevelopment efforts, relatively speaking, compared to some of the bigger ones we've seen, especially in West Lafayette's downtown. And given this site's location kind of in the southern end of this near downtown neighborhood, this proposal is certainly not out of character with others that we've supported. So we're recommending approval. We have to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Petitioner or petitioner's representative like to make a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening again. Kevin Riley with Riley, Teeter and Schreier representing the petitioner. The property owners and the project manager are also here tonight. Happy to answer any questions you may have. We agree with the staff report and Ryan's comments. He's correct that the plan is to tear down the existing buildings and then build a new 5-story, 32-unit building. So that is the plan. And I would just mention we've had several discussions with Ryan and with Aaron Easter with the city of West Lafayette. And this plan, or what we're proposing, is consistent with the discussions that we've had with them. So we respectfully request your approval. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this petition? Any questions from the commission?
What's the difference between R3 and an R4?
The number is just to organize it properly. Essentially, the R4W zone does not have a residential density requirement, which is how many units per acre you're allowed. The R3W zone does. I believe it's 15 units per acre. So R4W removes that restriction, so it allows a little more flexibility in design.
Any other questions? You have a yellow ballot.
We have 14 votes recommending approval. This case will carry on to Westside Council.
Thank you, Ryan.
I move to hear and vote on Z 2859, Jasmine Jones, NBU to R1U.
Second.
Okay, good evening here. On this aerial here, Wabash Avenue runs northeast to southwest on this map. I can't even get the cursor to be on the map correctly. We're between Smith and Ellsworth Street on Wabash Avenue. And this area you see here shown in red was what was originally planned as a neighborhood business node for the Wabash Avenue neighborhood. The neighborhood early on, the earliest zoning map showed this area all zoned industrial with floodplain along the river. Over time, there's been some revisions to the map, including the first one in 1992 that made everything R1B. And later on, after working with the neighborhood and the adoption of the zoning ordinance, we had some new zoning districts that we work with the neighborhood to figure out, where do we want to see our commercial nodes grow? And it was at that time, I think, that the NBU zone that we see here came into place. Prior to that NBU zone existing, it was actually called LB, local business, which later became NB. So just follow me here. The LB district that had been on this property previously allowed both residences and businesses. So the property was always conforming with that. It wasn't until 1998 when this property became NBU with the neighborhood's vision for this area to develop as a commercial node did this become NBU. Now that we've, 20 some years later, these homes are still here. If we zoom into the aerial, you can see here that these are fairly narrow lots. According to the county assessors, this property was built in 1930, has been used as a residence since then, and will continue to be. In fact, what prompted this request was a sale of this property, and the underwriting turned up the non-conforming use. So petitioner reached out to some of the adjacent neighbors to the south as well as to the north, who also have a house non-conforming in the NBU zone. However, they did not wish to be part of this petition. The only part of this block that's used commercially is what's here at the north end of the corner there, and that still is used residentially. So given the way that things have developed here, staff can support reducing this commercial node to just include the existing commercial use and to make this long-standing, legally non-conforming property conforming again. So let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, John. Does petitioner or petitioner's representative wish to make a presentation?
Yes, thank you. Jim Olds, Stewart and Brannigan, 300 Main Street. I represent the petitioner, Jasmine Jones. Ms. Jones is the purchaser under contract that is contingent upon getting this rezoned. We also filed a petition for variance with the city. The lender objected because it's non-conforming, and they're requiring that in the event of damage that the property could be rebuilt exactly as situated today. That's the underwriting requirement for the FHA loan they're trying to get. This has been used, as far as we can tell, since 1930 as a single-family residence. Ms. Jones would be purchasing this and living in it, so it would be owner-occupied. It would be a good support for the neighborhood, keep owners living in the neighborhood, and would be consistent with historical use. The issue with NBU does allow some residential use, but only on the second story above a commercial space or in the rear of a commercial space. So that's why it's non-conforming. We've also, our variance petitions are for setback because these old lots were built before the zoning codes. It's a non-conforming lot as well for width and area. We have spoken with the city economic development office, Dennis Carson, and he's in favor of this and expect that they will support this at city council if and when we get there. That is really it. We're just trying to maintain this character as a residential unit, and that's the only way that this potential buyer can do it and go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Questions from or comments from the commission? You have a last yellow ballot.
We have 14 votes recommending approval. So carry on to Lafayette Council.
Thank you, Ryan. There are no administrative matters. I will take the approval of the June Executive Committee agenda, please.
I move that the following requests for subdivisions be placed on the June 1st, 2022 Area Plan Commission Executive Committee agenda at petitioner's request. Placement thereon being without reference to compliance or non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. S 5070. S 5073, Artisan Electric Minor Subdivision, Section 2, Minor Sketch.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Determination of variances.
I move the following requests for variance from Unified Zoning Ordinance are not requests for use variance prohibited from consideration by ordinance and statute. That would be BZA 2077, John Spalding, and BZA 2078, David Thomas Isley.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Director's report.
Thank you. The report was distributed yesterday. I don't have anything in particular to call out or add, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Hearing none. Thank you. Any citizens' comments or grievances?
I'm not a citizen, but I just wanted to say what happened here tonight's a prime example of what we were discussing with the amendment that's being changed a different direction. She had to come to change that to make that sellable for herself. So that's a prime example of what we were discussing.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thanks, Vicki. Any other comments? Mr. Schroeder.
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.